Welcome to another episode of Call to Purpose. I'm Amy Coppola, and I'm here with Toni Riley, the author of Bright Side of Broken and the owner of Olive Grove Therapy. Our special guest today is Jennifer McAlister, author of Press On and devotional series writer for the Bible app and My Faith Votes. Welcome today, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Toni and Jennifer have been friends for how many years now?
I'm sorry.
You're gonna ask.
I totally put you guys on the spot. I'm
like,
sorry.
wait, 2009. So how many years is that?
2009, 16 years.
Wow.
16
Glad you did
years.
the math for
Yeah.
I'm glad you did the math too. She's the mathmatician in the group.
Yes, yeah.
For sure.
Do you want to share how you guys met?
I would love to.
Okay.
Hello, Amy.
Hello, Toni.
Hello, Jennifer. So I call her Jenny Mac, just so everybody knows.
There are a lot of Jennifers in the world.
Because there's a lot
Yes.
of Jennifers in the world, so she's Jenny Mac. So we met marathon training, and she showed up at Luke's Locker in Fort Worth, and we were doing one of our training runs in preparation for, we were the only two doing the same marathon in the group, which was San Antonio. And we're running along, and she's talking, and she's like, well, I'm really dedicated today because today's my birthday. And I'm like, it's my birthday too. So we found out on the first day we met that we have the same birthday.
That's great.
We're both 7-Eleven girls.
7-Eleven.
So
Very easy to remember.
It is.
we're supposed to be friends.
And we were
we
instant
ran the
friends.
same pace. That's how come I was running next to her. And we're doing the same marathon. And then we trained after that. And then I don't think there was a marathon for years that we didn't do together after that. So it was a divine appointment.
It was. It was. And we have many, many stories together, don't we?
She knows all my stories.
Yeah. And you know all
Not all
mine.
yours, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that leads us into you wrote a book, and it's called Press On. We have it here today. What was your motivation behind writing your book?
Well, it seems like in my life, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, that nothing is ever easy. You have a goal or a dream or something you want to do, and it's never just a straight shot. There's going to come a time when you're going to have to refocus and say, well, you know what, I'm just going to press on and keep going and until I cross that finish line.
Nice.
And whether that's in life or in marathon running or endurance events, I think endurance events, which a lot of the stories on Press On are talking about marathons and triathlons, but because I think it relates to life so much. So you don't have to participate in those things to understand what I was talking about.
Right.
Because that's life. It can feel like a race sometimes.
Yeah. I appreciated your book. I like how the stories are fairly short, and it really just kind of takes you through. It's an easy read because it's so interesting, and I love the questions at the end. And
Yes.
it's a great book. Have you written any other books?
Well, the very first book I wrote was a children's book. I wrote and illustrate a long time ago. So that kind of knew about the publishing process.
Nice.
And so I wrote that one, and I have another book in mind. I have to sit down and just do it. It's one of those things like, you want to, but
Right.
writing a book takes a lot of time,
Right.
and you have to be dedicated and put that aside. So
What's your?
the time aside.
I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up.
Do we need a break?
No, I don't think so.
Sorry.
But that was crazy because as soon as you said that,
I wrote a children's book.
she wrote a children's book.
Yes.
Aw, see, we have lots in common.
Do.
And it was like,
And
it
it
Have
never
to
dawned on
exchange
me, like,
children's books.
It never dawned on us until right now
Yeah.
where you just said that. And it's like, oh my gosh. We
so
both looked at each
you're
other.
gonna write that.
Yes.
The reason why I got teary-eyed
Yes.
was like, that's her push to start writing
And
your book.
probably 2 episodes ago, we discussed me writing a book, and I actually agreed that I'm next to write a book. So,
That's right. That's
you just
you
kind of
are.
confirmed it.
Wow.
Well, good.
Yeah,
That
big
makes
time.
me happy.
Yeah, that's great.
I love
Nice. What will the title of your next book be? Do you know? Or do you want to share?
That, I didn't even know the title of Press On until I was done with the book. I kept going back and forth, and then so I don't know the title yet. I know the concept, but not the title.
Okay.
And I'd also I write devotionals for YouVersion and for a company called My Faith Votes.
Yep.
And I would love to publish them in a book and have all of my devotionals in one book, because that way I can go back and read it. Because right now they're emailed My Faith Votes is emailed. It would be nice to have them in a book. So
yeah, nice. That's cool. Yeah, and I read your devotionals on the Bible app.
Yes, and I want to tell you what the importance of writing things down. One, we forget things so easily. We say we're never going to forget, but we do.
Right.
And but there's a quote that says, "The palest ink is stronger than the greatest memory." Wow. And so when we write things down, not just for us to remember, but also for our kids and their kids. And I was talking to I have a friend, and she asked me why I wanted to write the first time. And I told her, the Diary of Anne Frank, there was a lot of girls the same age as her going through the same thing.
Right.
But we know her, and she made what she was going through real because she wrote it down.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that separated her from a lot of other girls her age, was that she took the time to write it down. So there's power in words.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. You both have left your legacy, right, in words. That's great.
That's right.
Powerful. Nice.
And how great God is.
He is.
Yeah. So who was the intent of writing your book? Who is your reader? Do you have a particular reader in mind, or just anyone who?
Well, there's, like you said, every chapter is different. So a lot of it is on what I learned in endurance training. A lot of it's being a mom, endurance training. But one of them I found, when I would go back and read it, the main theme I kept coming back to is that God never wastes our tears. If he allows us to go through something, it's going to draw us closer to him. It's going to build our faith. And it's not just about us, it's about helping others. Because we really can't have compassion unless we understand completely what someone's going through. And then when you share it, people don't feel alone.
Yeah.
Like, oh, someone understands.
Yeah.
And so
relatable.
It's relatable. And Press On, if you'd have told me, I don't know, years ago that I would ever write a book, I would never have believed it.
Yeah.
But the main thing about Press On was the opening story is what happened to Toni and I in 2013.
Right.
And that was seeing a dream come true because both of us had tried many times to qualify for the Boston Marathon.
Yep.
And it wasn't happening. Right. And then one day, Toni qualified for Boston, and I didn't. This was in 2011. Was it 2011?
Yeah, tell us that story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and at first I'm like, okay, well, that's great. She did it. I can do it. So I signed up for another marathon because I really, really wanted to go to the 2012 Boston Marathon with her. I wanted to go to Boston. I wanted to do that.
Right.
And we ran the same pretty much all the time. So I figured, it'll happen. So I signed up, and I didn't qualify. And then I signed up again. I ran 5 marathons in 1 year just so I can go to Boston with her. And I was just getting slower and slower. And being the good friend that she is, she even ran with me on one.
Yeah.
She qualified again, and I didn't. But God was teaching me, because I was angry, not at Toni. I was very happy for Toni.
Yeah.
I just felt like everyone was invited to a party that I wasn't. Like, okay, I get it. Why does she get to go? And as I was after she qualified again at I think it was Cowtown, I was walking to my car, and I looked on the ground, and I was throwing a pity party for myself. Like
Dallas. But
was it Dallas?
I think so.
But I looked down the ground, and there was a little cross that was on the ground.
Wow.
And I picked it up, and at the same time, I got a text message from my friend's mom, and who I never talked to that often. But this text message, it came at the right time, or just the right time, and it said, "Faith in God also means faith in His timing." And I thought, oh,
Wow.
that's right.
That's powerful.
That's right. I need to remember that, because sometimes we can say we have faith in God all day long, but we also have to trust his methods and his timing. And that's where we get in trouble, is when we think we have it figured out. Yeah. So anyway, she went to Boston, and I didn't, but I tried again the next year. We were in St. George, and Toni asked me a question. She said, Jennifer, do you believe that you can qualify for the Boston Marathon? And I said, well, I've already proven that I can't time and time again. But if God chooses to run through me, if he chooses to lend me his strength for the day, then yes, I can. But even if he doesn't, I'm going to just thank him that I have the ability to run 26.2 miles. Because I realized that the enemy was stealing the joy of something that I used to love. Right. Became something that it was a burden. I had to perform. I had to do this. And it took all the joy out of something that used to be a gift. Yeah. And Toni goes, well, that's all he needs to hear. So we started running St. George. Yeah. Just with that simple attitude change, I laid the workspace stuff down and instead chose to thank God. Just thank him that I'm able to run. We ended up taking a half of an hour off my fastest time. Wow. We crossed the finish line together, and we had 5 minutes to spare as far as qualifying for Boston. Right. So that was one of the first times I cried tears of joy, because I was so used to saying, telling my husband, I called to qualify, no, to qualify, no, and this time to qualify, yes. And as soon as the word yes came out of my mouth, I was crying.
You make me cry.
And now I'll make this. That was a long-winded story to how I got to Boston. But anyways, all that to say, we got to the 2013 Boston Marathon. Yeah. We ran the whole thing, and it's a hard marathon. I've done it twice now, and I don't think the Boston Marathon ever gets easier. No, it doesn't. I can tell you it doesn't. And I'm not going to share all the things that happened during the race, because we wouldn't have enough time. But I'll just tell you the finish line part, because that's why I wrote Press On. Right. So after we ran 26 miles, we were together the whole time, and then we got separated right before I turned onto Boylston Street, which is where the finish line is. Right. I didn't know, because I had my earphones in. But we got separated. I turned onto Boylston Street, and I thought, well, I'll just meet her at the finish line. Right. And I started praying, and I said, thank you, God, that I didn't give up on my dream. Thank you. Because it took 12 marathons before I finally... endurance. Yeah. 5 when I was really trying. Well, I had ran 12 marathons previously, I think. Oh, total. But 5 when I was really trying. When you were really, yes. But there were so many times I wanted to give up. Wow. Yeah. I mean, over and over. I wanted to give up every time I ran a marathon. I'd say I'm never running again. But I kept coming back. And so now I'm about to see the culmination of not giving up. And I was thanking God. And I said, thank you that I'm going to see a dream come true. Thank you that I'm going to be done, because I don't think I ever want to run again, because I was so tired. Thank that I'm going to see my husband, because he's waiting for me. I knew where he was waiting for me. And then all of a sudden, and I see an explosion at the finish line, but I didn't think anything about it. I thought it was Patriots Day fireworks, because that day was sunny. It was beautiful. Everybody was happy. Spectators along the whole entire way almost. So how could it be anything sinister? So I just kept running. And then all of a sudden, the building in front of me exploded. And then I knew it wasn't fireworks. And there was a police officer standing there, because I stopped, and he looked at me, and he had fear in his eyes, because he knew that the first one was not fireworks. Right. And he knew we were under attack. And he looked at me and he said, run, run, run. But he's pointing at me to run the other way. Yeah, not to the finish. And then I just always have to put this part in there, because sometimes we think law enforcement and firemen and that they don't have fear. But he had that fear, and he ran straight towards the devastation. Wow. He was trying to take care of me by telling me to run the other way. Yeah. And yet he ran right in the middle of it, because we didn't know there's only going to be 2 bombs. We're just waiting for the next one to go off. Yeah, you didn't know. No, but I didn't want to disobey him, but I didn't run because my husband told me where he was going to be waiting for me.
Right.
And it was the building that just exploded.
Oh my goodness.
So I didn't know what to do. So I put my head in my hands, and I remember thinking, well, I don't want to leave my girls. And then I thought, well, God's already taken care of that. And then I thought, okay, well, this is the day that God's taken me home.
Right.
This is the day I'm going home. I did not have any fear in dying. And I thought, I know where Jason's at.
Right.
Because I thought he was gone because I just watched the building explode. And I thought, I know where he's at, and I know where I'm going. Now, I would be lying if I didn't say I was afraid of getting hit by a bomb. I was afraid of that. So then I added that prayer in there too. Okay, and if I do get hit by a bomb, let it be complete and instant. Well, then some time went by, and there wasn't another bomb.
That's good.
And in a long story short, I ended up finding out Jason had thought I was gone for a while because he was looking at the chip on my shoe. Mm-hmm. I thought he was gone because told me he was where he was waiting for me.
Right.
But he ended up getting stuck in traffic, so he was not able to be where he was supposed to be.
Wow.
I said I would never complain about traffic, but the DFW area will break you down. So I have complained about traffic since, but and then
Wow.
And then when he found out that I was okay, but it was about 20 minutes. But I said to God, why would you have me so close to the finish line that I can see it, but I can't cross it?
Right.
And I had a thought that wasn't my thought, and it was, you're going to cross the Boston Marathon finish line. But when you cross your eternal finish line, you're going to have a lot of other people with you because of your testimony.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time what that meant, that God did, but it was enough hope to cope that I was okay for a little while. Not in a million years thinking I would write a book.
Wow.
But that was the first chapter in Press On, and kind of the catalyst to all the other chapters, because you can just be going through life and all of a sudden everything blows up, and what are you going to do then?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Wow. Powerful story. Yeah. And I know, Toni,
many times. You were there.
Yes. And Toni shared her story with us on previous podcasts. So, yeah, it's good that you two are together, right? Yeah. We talked about all the things that held you up to get to the finish line, and, just God's timing of that whole day.
He's the God of our moments and the God of our details.
Right,
Jenny?
That's right.
I always give her credit for that quote.
Nice.
I have to say it daily.
Yes. In traffic.
Well, it's true. I got my details. We never know. We tend to trust God with our past.
Yeah.
Oh, you're such a good God. Look what you brought me through. We trust Him with our future. If I was going to die, I knew exactly where I'd be.
Right.
We struggle with the moments.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to remind
So true.
ourselves He is still the God. He's the God of my present moment.
Yeah.
Just as much He is in my future and in my past.
It's crazy that you told me that you said that quote on the plane ride to Boston,
Oh, wow.
and you were talking about how you were stuck in traffic and how you were like, oh, God is the God of our moments and the God of our details. So I just relaxed.
Wow.
And, like, you had told me that story on the
he
plane, and then I had it in my head when I had to stop at the porta potty, and I was like, God, why is it that I always have digestive issues? And it was like, okay, you're the God of my moments, you're the God of my details. This must be for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
Not having any idea that
That's right.
there were bombs about to go off at the finish line.
And how I finally did write a book is I've canceled at a pregnancy center for, it's many, many years, 18,
Yeah.
19. And I couldn't talk about it for a while, but when I would start talking to, because it's a faith-based pregnancy center, so where we share the gospel.
Right.
And I've shared the gospel many times, but I would tell this story. I would ask them, do you know what would happen if you were to die? Do you know 100%? And they would say no. And then I would tell them just a short version of that this is how I was so glad that I knew where I would go, because this is what happened.
Right.
And all of a sudden, because that's the world that we live in, we don't know when a bomb's going to blow. We don't know what's
Right.
going to happen tomorrow. All of a sudden, these these women, their boyfriends, husbands, they would lean in, and all of a sudden they were listening. My story doesn't save anybody, but it opened the door for me to share the gospel.
Nice.
And then when I would share the gospel, all of a sudden they were more receptive. And I'm not in any way taking anything away from the gospel, because the power is in God's word and all of that. But in Revelation it says we're saved by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Right.
Every single one of us has a story. When we trust God with our stories and share them with others, it opens the door to point them to Jesus.
Yeah.
So I figured, I saw how many people were receptive to that I thought, well, I can only see so many people every week. If I put in a book, I can reach a lot more people.
Yes.
So
yes,
that
definitely.
was
She could be an endurance coach.
Could be.
Endurance,
Would you like to be
emotional,
on our website?
emotional endurance coach.
Yeah.
We were talking about that. Was that last night?
Yesterday, right, with Milena?
And who? Oh yeah. Oh, was that yesterday?
So yeah,
Yeah, that was yesterday.
yeah,
It seems like a long time ago.
I know.
But
It does.
she was saying that I could be an
endurance coach.
emotional endurance coach.
Yes. Yeah.
Jenny Mac could be an emotional endurance
Definitely.
coach as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're learning all kinds of different coaching titles, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We have an art coach.
oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty neat. So you're located here in Texas.
Yes.
What is the furthest that your book has been sent to? Do you know?
Well, I'm glad.
Glad you asked.
Glad you asked that, 'cause, I looked the other day. So when I wrote Press On, that opened up a door of opportunity for me to write for YouVersion.
Okay.
So back in, I guess, 2017, I submitted a devotional to YouVersion,
Okay.
and I didn't even know. I just sent it to as many YouVersion addresses I can find, emails. I didn't even know the proper how to do this.
Right.
And I was shocked. But I'm also a web and graphic designer, so I looked at what they needed the dimensions to be and the artwork. So I just put it together as if I had already been published with them. There's a magnet on my refrigerator that says, "Proceed as if success were inevitable."
Wow.
So I had it all ready to go. I sent them, and I was shocked to get an email back from them saying, "We would love to publish your devotional." And the very first one I did was Press On.
Right.
And it was based on my book.
Nice.
Well, since then, I think I have maybe 10 more. But you get to see the analytics on YouVersion, and they've gone all over the world, China, all over the place. But never in a million years I think that anyone would read them, but it's been downloaded almost 490,000 times.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
which
That is.
when the bombs went off, you could not have told me that would happen, that God would use something he could use something so horrible and turn it around for good.
Right.
And I keep thinking of that line in Genesis 50:20, when it says what God intended for evil, not God, when the enemy intended for evil, God used for good, for the saving of many lives.
Gotcha.
So so it's got, because of YouVersion, it's gone everywhere.
Right.
And then I also write for a company called My Faith Votes, and they want to encourage Christians to vote their values, because if we stand up and show up, we
Right.
can change things. We're not supposed to be in a holy huddle hiding in the church. We're supposed to be out there and engage.
Right.
And but my job is to write the devotionals for them, and that goes out every Monday to thousands, and also on their social media and their website. So, and I never would have got that job had I not wrote Press On.
Right.
So,
Wow. It's great how it all
Cool.
builds on each other,
I
right?
always think of Romans 8:28 too.
Yeah.
That he turns all things to good,
that's
Yeah.
right.
not
Not
just
some
some things. All things. Yeah. That's what we're thinking alike.
I am not to the point of quoting scripture, but I appreciate that both of you have that inside of you, and it just naturally.
She's way better than I am.
And you know what? And even when you know it, I still screw my words up.
Yeah.
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 Me too.
Yeah.
But that's part of the thing with Press On too, is God doesn't use perfect people. I mean,
That's
if we did everything perfect, I don't think we'd have the humility that we need. I mean, anytime I think, I've got this down,
Yeah.
I'm on my face, or I'll do something stupid, or I'll, so
Yeah, same.
just
And I'm a good paraphraser.
Yeah. When I were doing that yesterday, the one with, the masses will come. And Melina was quoting it for us.
Yes. Yes. It was funny.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for someone who wants to write a book? We've discussed that I'm going to write a book in the near future. So do you have any recommendations?
yes. And I like Toni did this in her book. After she had her chapter, she had questions. You need to write as if you're writing, like if I'm writing for you.
Okay.
Because we can tell our stories, but it's not going to engage the reader for very long unless they see how it applies to their life.
Right.
And so I always say when you're writing, just I'll pretend I'm looking at you. How is this going to help you? Or how is this going to help you in any way?
Right.
Because just hearing my story, it may not.
Right.
So you want to connect with the reader. So it can't just be your diary.
Right.
You can't. You have to engage the reader. Right. And me too. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm supposed to say. And I just have to say, Lord, what do you want your children to know?
Right.
What is it that and then sometimes with writing, I can start a chapter having, this is what I want to write, and then I end completely different than I thought. So a lot of it, like anything in life, is just showing up and putting one foot in front of the other and just starting.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of an adventure, like, didn't know it was going to go that way. But but I would 100% just write for the reader.
Yeah. And I, of course, am a program manager, so I want like a schedule and, to like lay it all out. And did you come up with, I know Toni spent every Monday, she devoted every Monday to writing and working on her book. And did you have a timeline? How did you do the structure of it?
Well, this is how I do a lot of things, and I don't recommend it. But, like,
I love it.
Before I ever even did a sprint try, I signed up for an Ironman because I knew I had to figure it out. Yes. And the same thing, I won't even run 5 miles a week unless I sign up for a marathon. So the fear of not preparing or not doing something. So with my book, I gave myself a deadline. I called my friend, or Tammy was the editor, hired her for the editing.
Nice.
And the money was already invested. And then I gave myself a timeline when I was going to get the book to her.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing what we can do when we're properly motivated.
Yeah.
For me, I'm properly motivated by, okay, you have to do this now. Because we'll never get around to it.
Right.
Ever. So I wrote it pretty quickly. I think, I say that it took me my whole life to write this because a lot of it was going through my journals that I wrote down. And so, but then once I decided, I went through all my journals and then I wrote it. That was about 3 months.
Okay.
But, and also I'll say this about the power of writing things down for people that are that are thinking about writing a book. One of the editors said, hey, I just need you to know you mentioned your younger daughter a lot more than you mentioned the other two. And she goes, did you mean to do that? And I said, no. But I never started journaling until Skylar was little.
Gotcha.
I never journaled when the other two were little.
Yeah.
So I didn't, when I started writing things down, when I said earlier, the palest ink is stronger than the greatest memory.
Right.
All my kids had wonderful things and I learned, but we forget. But Skylar, so I had to change in the book. I just said my daughter or one of my daughters.
Right.
But that's the power of writing things down. So
nice.
If you're thinking of writing a book or someone's, just start journaling now because you're going to look back and be surprised at.
Yeah.
I would have forgotten that had I not wrote it down.
That's true. I actually, one of the places I moved to, I actually took all my journals.
Many.
I know, right? Yes. But I actually took all my journals and I put them into a Word document.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Just went through and typed them all. And it's interesting. I have almost 200 pages of just journal entries.
Oh,
So I feel like I have the basis for the book. It's just a matter of, but now it seems like, okay, I have 200 pages. I have to go back and read all that and take out what doesn't apply and everything. So yeah,
I love
that's
that. And journal is good because you put your failures down there.
right.
One of the things someone said to me about Press On was, man, I don't think I would have put that in the book. I don't think I would have put how many times you had to fall down or how many times you had to fail. But people don't.
That's true. Yeah,
People
whenever I'm
don't-
troubled or have issues, right, that's when I write in my journal.
But people can't relate to all your successes, but they can relate to failures.
Definitely. I know one thing that I felt like I have to say for some reason. Some people are like, oh, you had to like bare your soul or whatever. But,
Right.
There were times when I was like, well, should I share this story? Because someone warned me, like, hey, you're going to share this story, and this
Right.
person may come out and whatever,
Yeah.
do whatever, harm you, whatever, or
Right.
they can sue you. And I was like, so I had prayed about it, and it was like, and I heard God say, well, if you don't share it, then you're not going to help as many people.
Right.
So he's there to protect you. And I changed the names. So it was like, if this person or that person comes out and
Right.
and has a hard time with it, then I was like, I'd be like, well, so you're admitting that you did this?
Right.
Okay. You're admitting it. So
Yeah.
See, he doesn't waste our tears.
does not.
He had to share that
Wow.
in order to reach
Gotta go
someone
through
that went.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's brave.
And bravery is the
That was
definition of bravery.
That
is
was her word for the year one year. Brave.
Bill passed away. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a word for the year, Jennifer?
Actually, I do. It's rest, but not in the rest that you think.
Yeah.
It's rest in not having to have it all figured out. Rest, like earlier, his timing.
Right.
Rest in his methods, and just I just read a devotional not that long ago, but just talking about how Jesus had a very busy schedule, but he was never rushed.
Yeah.
He was, and he sometimes people were the 100% his
Right.
what he was going to do that day and spend time with. And then there's times when he had to go on the mountaintop and pray all night long.
Right.
Times he had to say no to this and say no to that, so he can do it. So but him just 100% relying on God the Father to give him his marching orders for the day, and
Right.
not to have that rushed, because that's when the pressure and the stress and the worry and
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's a hard one. I always say, be careful with the word that you get, because you're going to have to
Yes.
live it that year.
You do. Yes.
I was saying that this morning at the coffee shop. That it was like, oh my, I love my word for the year because it's love.
Right.
but sometimes I love to love, but sometimes it's not so easy to love. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah. And mine is worthy. So anything that isn't worthy, I have to. It's not an easy task to.
Say no to.
Yeah, to cut things out of your life that aren't worthy, because who am I to decide that? So I'm kind of letting God decide who's worthy and who's not by who stays and who goes in my life. So yeah, which is also hard to do because I'm type A and like to control everything. So, yes, hard to let go. Jennifer, tell us where we can purchase your book. Where can we find it?
Well, you can buy it on Amazon,
Okay.
or you can go to my website, which is just my name, JenniferMcAlister.com. And McAlister is the lazy way. 1 C, 1 A, 1 L.
Nice.
McAlister, like McAlister's Deli.
Okay.
So JenniferMcAlister.com,
Okay.
or again, Amazon.
Okay.
But
Nice.
you have to type in press on, comma, Jennifer. Otherwise, press on nails comes up. So
press on nails.
That's a good tip.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today and sharing your history with your book and all the information. We appreciate it.
well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately, we have Jennifer for our next episode. If you'd like to connect with us, in the meantime, our website is yourcalledtopurpose.com. See you on the next episode.